We're going to talk about the English wheel when it comes to low crown panels today. What the English wheel is, it's a larger upper wheel with a smaller lower wheel. Our upper wheel is flat and our lower wheel has a crown to it. And one of the ways I kind of heard it described once before is it's kind of like the mill where they manufacture steel. And you got two wheels and you're feeding in a thicker panel here, and as it's being forced through, it's being thinned out. But because our lower die has radius to it, it's not thinning it out in the total length of the panel. Carrie Pinkerton told me to imagine looking down through the upper wheel and at the lower wheel, and how you're going to have just this small contact patch because it's a radius coming onto a flat. And as that contact patch is being wheeled down the panel, it's like a boat traveling through the water. It's forcing the material out. It's a linear type stretch. And that's how I think about it. I had a really good class at Phillips Hot Rod and Custom that went over all of this, and it really put all the dots together. He is a really good teacher and a very good craftsman. And what we're going to do today, this is our panel. We're going to leave a picture frame around it, and we're going to wheel inside the picture frame. And this material is going to basically stay the same length, but we're going to be creating additional length in here, which is going to raise the panel. And what we'll do is we'll add more picture frames, more and more picture frames, and we're slowly going to raise this panel up. That's one reason why they call it a raising machine. And what will happen is this won't get wheeled. This will get wheeled 2 times. This gets wheeled 4 times because 2 times here and an additional 2. So once it's wheeled 4, this one will be 6, 8, and 10, and that'll help create the shape. What happens is our perimeter out here has been wheeled. It's the same length it was when it started. But these additional steps that we take are going to lengthen that material inside it, which is going to force it to want to raise up. It's as if you took a piece of welding wire, laid it across a flat panel, and then just forced a little bit more length of wire, and it'll bow up off of that panel. I'll do a small demonstration of that and you'll understand. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to create a low crown panel that has the low crown centered in it, like this one. And then what we'll do, I'll do another panel where I offset it, and you'll see how we're using like a topographical map. When you look down at it and where the little lines are and the high parts of the hills and the low parts of the valleys are, we're going to manipulate that panel by manipulating our topographical map. And we can move the high point over to here if we wanted to, and so on and so forth, just by using the picture frame technique and wheeling it. The pattern that I'm going to be using in the wheel is going to be a short, so I'm going to come up and stop just a little bit early. A long, where I'm going to go past my picture frame, and then a touching, where I'm going to come up and touch the picture frame. And then on my next pass, this will become short, this will become long, and this will become touching. And by doing that, I'm blending as I go. And we'll take the wheel and make those short, long, touching, short, long, touching, all the way down the panel. And that's going to be our tracking pattern. And we're going to try to track very close together because we only have a very small contact patch. So we're going to try to keep our tracking very close. Short, long, touching. And we're going to go through the whole panel like that. So one more little demonstration and then we'll start wheeling. So I put this piece of welding wire here inside the picture frame. And we're going to be wheeling inside the picture frame. What that's going to be doing is thinning it and making that material longer. And if you could see that welding rod, as I add length and try to force length into that thing, it pops up. So this would be just as the panel's sitting, and then as I add length, it has no place to go. It wants to come up. And that's the raising that the English wheel is going to do. And we're going to wheel both ways, so it's going to evenly work everything out and create that raising effect in the panel. And like looking down on a topographical map, as we add picture frames into it, we're wheeling it more, we're thinning it more, we're raising it up, just like a topographical map. When I first set the tension in the wheel, I put my panel into it and I smacked it and made sure it wouldn't go sideways. And I added just a little bit extra tension to it. So when we're wheeling, we're going to do what's called tracking. You can see some of my practice tracks right there, but these are kind of far apart. I was just setting the tension of the machine. So we're going to do a short, long touching tracking. So I'm going to come in here inside of my picture frame, and I'm going to wheel down, and I'm going to come just short of my line. I'm going to give the panel a little bit of an angle, and I'm going to come back, and we're going to wheel the other way. Now I'm going to come a little over my line without coming to the end of the panel. I'm going to cock it again, and this time I'm going to come till I touch the panel. So I went short, long, and now touching. So now I'm going to go give it that little bit of an angle like walking a barrel. I'm going to go short. I'm going to come this way and go long. And then I'm going to come this way and touch. Once again, I'm going to go short. Then I'm going to go long. I'm going to come back and touch. And we want our tracking patterns to be very close together. Add a little more tension. I don't know if you can see them very good. So here I'm touching. We're going to go back. Short. Long. Touching. Short. Long. Touching. And we're just walking our way down this panel, keeping our tracking markings close together, because every time that we track, we're thinning that material a little bit. And we want to thin the panel evenly. We don't want to have these little highs and lows. So the closer we get our tracking together, the better we are. So we're back to short, long, touching. Now this time short's over here, long is over there, touching is over here. And what that does, it's going to allow us to blend just over the edge of our picture frame, and so that there's not a line here when it comes, and everything should blend nice and evenly. So we're at touching, we go back to short, and we can stay about 1 inch away from our line. We go long, we can come over it, and then we're going to go back, and touching is now going to be over there. Then we can go short, long, touching. Short, long, touching. And inside my head, that's what I'm telling myself, is short, long, touching. Short, long, touching. Short, long, touching my line. And what the English wheel's doing is it's putting pressure down, creating a PSI that's higher than the elastic limit of the material. It's getting into that plastic deformation, and it's thinning it ever so subtly. And you can see all our polished little lines where we're running over because we have enough force to change the surface of the material. Now I'm going to continue doing this, and then we'll come back and I'm going to wheel it, cross wheel it. We'll get to that step. I'll do a little bit of that, and we'll keep going. So it's hard to see. We do have a little bit of shape into it already. Just a very low crown. I'm using a number 6 radius, and that's all that we're putting into it. Now what I'm going to do is cross wheel it. You can see all of my tracking lines. You can see all of my tracking lines, and now what I'm going to do is cross wheel it. And that's going to help us cover that whole surface area with our stretch. And it's going to be the same thing. I'm just going to go into the panel. We're going to consider that a long, because I came in from the edge. We're going to go short, touching, long, short, touch. Long on this end, short on that end, touching over here. We're going to do the same thing all the way down to the panel. We're going to track this panel as thin as we can, or thin this panel out as evenly as we can. And once again, we're trying to keep our tracking marks nice and close together. We're walking that barrel just a little bit at a time. Long, short, touching. Long, short, touching. So as we go, what's happening is our English wheel has a little bit of flex, and it's pushing down that same PSI, trying to constantly. But we're going to hit a point to where it's going to have like a rebound. We're going to be thin to the point to where we need to add a little bit of adjustment. So you can kind of feel it in the wheel. I don't know how to describe that in a video, but if it seems like you're really not doing anything after a certain point, just give a little bit of a nudge on the adjuster. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to cross wheel it now, go all the way to the other end, and then we're going to set a new picture frame onto the inside. Here we are. I've drawn our second picture frame on it. But this time, instead of wheeling square like we've been, I'm going to wheel it at 45. And what that's going to do is it's just going to help blend and keep everything from just running lines into it. It'll help blend the panel a little bit. Same thing, short, long, touching. Short, long, touching. And just keep that in mind. Even though you might be able to see it, as long as you're breaking up those lines, it should help. Short, long, touching. And I'm still on the same tension that I had into it the first time. I think it still feels like it has its same tension to it. I haven't added anything. I don't know if you can see it, but we're polishing it more and more and more. This was a 120 grit finish when we started. And that's one reason why it's so important to keep a nice finish and to clean your dies in your panel before you put them in the English wheel, because it will stamp whatever's in it onto the panel. And that's all I'm doing, short, long, touching all the way across. So I'm going to pause it for now, and we'll come back when I'm done this pass. I completed that first pass of that second run. So I'm going to come off the panel. I'm going to rotate it so that my new lines are perpendicular to those old lines, and I'm going to wheel my second pass at a 45, but it's perpendicular to that first set. So short, long, touching. Short, long, touching. We'll go continue on the rest of the panel and we'll take another look. So here I've drawn a third picture frame, and don't know how much you can see it, but we have a nice low crown starting to develop. The center of the panel is still a little bit flat, but we're building up into it. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to start wheeling again this way. So I'm going to start right at the edge of our third picture frame. Short, long, touch. Short, long, touch. We're going to wheel across this and cross wheel it, and we're building up that topography of the panel. So here's our panel. I finished those two passes, and you can see we have shape. Turn the panel. We've developed shape into the panel. Okay. And the reason why is because our first section here has 2 passes. When we do this section, it ends up having 4 passes. This one has 6, and this one has 8. This section here is going to have 8, and then we'll have one more at 10. And this part of the panel has gotten thinner than the edges, so that extra material has to make it come up. So let's get this next one going, and we're going to do something at 45 again. And you can see how all of our passes have overlapped each other and blended into each other. So I'm going to come down here on the wheel and just give it just a little touch. I didn't move that wheel. If it was a clock, I probably didn't move it 3 minutes. Here we are. We're going to do this as our last picture frame. And this one we're going to do crossways like this and up and down. Once we're done that, we're going to wash the panel. We'll do this last pass and we'll show you how much shape it's gained. Remember, this is a low crown panel. It's not going to have a lot. And we'll go from there. But I already can't invert. It's very difficult to invert it now. Now you can see we've got almost 1/4 of an inch on each side. And if we rotate it, I have the same thing, almost 1/4 of an inch on each side. So we've developed a low crown to this panel. We've done it nice and evenly. So now we talked about the topography of a panel. I'm going to do the same panel, but I'm going to take my box and I'm going to change my box, and I'm not going to have it in the center anymore. And I'm going to build up one edge a little bit higher. And that's the topography of a panel. As you're developing your panel, and let's say you're setting it onto a buck, and the center is touching, but the sides aren't. We need to raise the center so that the sides go down and touch the buck. If the sides touch the buck, but the center doesn't, by wheeling the outside of it, but not touching the center, what we can do is we can relax this and cause this to stretch, open up, and it'll go from being a tight panel, it'll loosen up and it'll fit. But that's something for a different time. But I'm going to wheel that other panel and we can see how they raised out differently. Before I can start that other panel, we have to wash this one. So I'm going to take a little bit of tension out, just a little bit. I took maybe, if it was a clock, I probably took maybe 2 minutes. We're going to come here, we're going to do it diagonal. We're going to come in and we're just going to wash this panel. It all comes out in the wash, as they say. And what this is going to do is hopefully it'll relieve the tension out of the panel if there is any in it. and it will, any spots that we may have missed a little bit, it's going to get it. So we're just going to come through and wash this panel out. One thing I didn't mention earlier that I probably should have, we're going to be very careful with our form. Form is two-dimensional, remember. So as I pass this through, I want to make sure that my end doesn't droop off, or I'm not pulling it. That will induce shapes that you don't really want. So we're just going to be very easy to come through here, and we're going to let this panel rock, and we're going to keep that. It's not going to tip down. It's not going to tip up. It's going to ride right where it needs to be. You got to get a feel for where that panel needs to be to keep it in that form. Because if we don't, it will induce shapes that we don't want, or induce things that we don't want. Same thing, nice even tracking, end to end on the panel. Just a little bit of turning in your hands will steer it a long way across that panel. And when we're done washing in this direction, we'll wash it perpendicular to that. This is just going to help even things out. So here's our panel we started with. We did everything even from the edge. 10 passes into the center. We did it in increments of 2. Here's the next panel where we offset it. So I went 2 inches up and only 1 inch in to offset our high point into this corner. Just like a topographical map, we can shift it and move it around and to get our high point in a new place. And if we come down, you can see our point is now at the 10 box, and we have a quarter and a quarter on each side of it, but it's shifted over to the left from center. And if I rotate the panel, we should have basically the same thing here. We have a quarter and a quarter, but it's now shifted up in the panel. That's basically how to work low crown panels. We find our area that needs to be high and use the topography of how we wheel it in order to create that low crown, that 3-dimensional shape that we need. I really hope that helps. I think I'm going to end it there. Later on down the road, we'll work about opening them up and fitting them to a buck and everything, but that's the basics of low crown panels.